Hello and welcome to Tech About Town, brought to you by Communitech and Elevate IP. I'm Alex Kinsella.
And I'm Jill Mills.
Jill is my special guest host for today. Jill, you're a program manager here at Communitech. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. I'm so pleased to be here.
You're excited for your first podcast co-hosting experience?
So delighted. So thrilled.
We're going to have a good conversation. Today in the studio, we have Elliot Fung. Elliot is the Executive Director of Medical Innovation Xchange. I always do Medical Innovation Xchange, and I put my hands up in the X because Xchange is with an X, which as a Gen X person, I really appreciate it. I'm sure that wasn't done for that reason, but...
I'll say it was.
Yeah. Welcome to the studio.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here.
So Medical Innovation Xchange was founded in 2021. You've been the executive director since day one?
I've been the executive director since 2021, actually. Yeah, so January.
Yeah, so since the beginning. So give us a little bit of history on Mix. There's a lot of people in our audience who maybe are new to it and don't know where it kind of fits in the grander tech ecosystem.
So the idea of Mix has been around for probably about 10 years in this ecosystem. It started a long time ago with health innovation and MedTech founders who were getting together. They had graduated the startup programs in the ecosystem. But because health innovation is different than a typical software company, they were still needing some type of support when they were in the growth phase. So they were getting together and saying there has to be something out there for us, but there wasn't. So they started to pull together the ecosystem partners. They pulled together government, some municipal leaders. I was working at the time for Ontario Health, which was the Crown agency, or is the Crown agency that funds and manages healthcare in Ontario. I was vice president of innovation and strategic partnerships, and my role was to connect the health system with the tech ecosystem, specifically in this region, in Waterloo Region. Unfortunately, I was the only person in Ontario Health that did that. So the idea was, hey, let's bring all these people that touch health innovation together and co-locate them in one place. And like a typical tech hub, they would see each other collide. They'd be able to problem solve together, do really neat things and work together. And then the pandemic happened. And I got pulled into pandemic response. They got pulled into helping companies retool during the pandemic. And then the pandemic kind of was happening. We're kind of in a kind of a steady state. And then I saw the opportunity for Mix, and I came over and joined Mix.
Yeah. And so a lot of the companies in Mix are, I want to say household names, MedTech household names, IntelliJoint, HiIV, Cobionics.
Yep.
Who are some of the others that are in there?
So in residence with us, we have 6 companies. Residence just means you physically live with us. We're 45,000 square feet. So we have IntelliJoint, Vena Medical, HiIV Health, Bloom Care Solutions, and Cobionics. And all of them are local companies. The majority of them are founded by people who have medical professionals in their families, and those people shared challenges with them. And the founders were engineers at school, and they said, we can solve that problem. And all of them were created in this community to help solve a problem. One of them, HiIV in particular, is founded by someone who was experiencing the health system. And she said, well, there's got to be a better way to do this. And she founded her company, HiIV.
IntelliJoint you mentioned. So Armin recently spoke at Founders and Physicians event at Skywatch's office in January. It was a really interesting conversation. And one of the things he talked about, and he talks about often, is the challenges with procurement. So I know Can Health is involved in that. So
that's right. So I work with the Can Health initiative here at Communitech, and one thing they do is build a network to help companies get into with healthcare institutions and get procured pilot projects. And then hopefully once they're procured, they can be scaled across the network. And so it's become very apparent to me that it's a huge challenge for MedTech companies to get in the door and get the procurement going. So I just wondered, is there, a part of your programming or support that you do for your companies to help with that procurement puzzle?
That is one of the biggest things that we've been working on over the last couple of years in particular. So obviously our companies are in the growth phase, so they're almost ready or they are selling in market or trying to. And Armin speaks quite a lot about this procurement issue in Ontario and in Canada. And, a lot of people have heard the challenge that IntelliJoin has had. And it's been a lingering challenge that we still haven't fully solved. But the biggest thing that we've been doing is advocating and working with the Ministry of Health in Ontario to design and launch the innovation pathway. And that was announced 2 years ago in the provincial budget. And then last year in 2025, the Health Tech Accelerator Fund was launched in the provincial budget. So that was $13 million that the province put into the innovation pathway. And the pathway is designed for companies like IntelliJoin who can't just simply go to a hospital and sell their product, because at the end of the day, there's no billing code for the hospital to use. So if there's no billing code, the hospital is procuring right out of their global budget. And unless you are a large, often academic hospital, you don't have a whole bunch of extra money lying around. Most hospitals don't have a lot of extra money lying around.
Right.
So the innovation pathway aims to solve that problem. And that's a lot of the work that Mix and our companies have been doing over the last year and a half or so. And it's similar to a pilot project where you put a company through the innovation pathway working with a hospital partner, but at the end of the project, the validation results in the potential for a billing code. And the billing code is that golden ticket that both a health tech company and a hospital needs to be able to truly procure the product. So that's really exciting. That is probably the biggest game-changing opportunity for our growth companies right now.
And have you seen that happen with any companies at Mix, that they've achieved that billing code as a result, or it hasn't come into play yet?
It hasn't quite come into play. So it was just, it was announced obviously about a year ago, and the $13 million was allocated towards about 4 or 5 specific areas. One of them was orthopedic surgical navigation, which is the area that IntelliJoin works in. The other large bucket of funds was going to wound care management. So one of our member companies does work in wound care management, and they have applied for the pathway. So we're still waiting to hear that, the results of that. And then there's about $2 or $3 million left in the fund to distribute to other small projects. So the other thing that we're doing right now, and I was just at the province's pre-budget consultation session yesterday with the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Finance, is advocating for an extension of the Health Technology Accelerator Fund. So yesterday I spoke at that consultation and asked the province to consider a $40 million 5-year budget for that.
Well, that's ambitious. Good luck.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best that we can do is advocate and hope that the province sees that, this is going to result in not only better results for our companies, but more Canadian health innovation working for Canadian patients and clinicians. Because at the end of the day, that's the big issue. We're not getting the products that are designed and built here actually working in our hospitals, as you know very well.
Right. We would serve the patients in the hospitals as well as building up our own Canadian tech industry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, that kind of leads to something else that's happening in town. So over the next 10 years, give or take, we'll be getting the first new hospital in 100 years. Everyone kind of talks about a different number on that one. It sounds really nice. We'll just say it. We're getting our first new hospital campus in over 100 years on the campus of the University of Waterloo. It has not been named yet. We're going to start taking bets on Ren at whatever. We don't know yet. It's going to be Ren at North Campus. Probably.
I think that's the
is that what it is?
Running assumption.
Oh, there we go.
No,
okay.
that's my bet.
Yeah. I know Mike Pereira would like it to be called Ren at R&T Park.
We'll see the R&T Park.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens on that one. With the new hospital coming, what opportunities are you looking at for Mix to be involved in both the, as they start to pick out what equipment to put in is an opportunity for new, as the Pathways program goes, a new opportunity to put in some locally made equipment. It's also not it's not a teaching hospital, but it's going to be a research, or they're kind of classifying it a different way.
Yeah. One of the biggest strengths that I see for our hospital system in Waterloo Region is that we actually don't have a teaching hospital. We're right in the middle of two other teaching hospitals. We're an hour away from Hamilton, an hour away from London, but we don't have one here. And controversial statement possibly, I don't think right now we need one, but we have incredible opportunities working with Ren on research. And that's what they've been doing really, really well. That's not to say that there's not teaching going on at the hospitals, though. And in the new hospital, there'll be a lot of teaching going on there. It's just not a traditional teaching hospital. So we have some huge opportunities from a mix perspective and our company's perspective. The first one is with CareNext. So CareNext was launched also about a year ago now. And that was the collaboration between University of Waterloo and Ren. And CareNext is really taking their innovation programs and taking it to the next level. And I think by the time that hospital opens in 10 years, we're going to have a really, really strong innovation hospital and a strong innovation ecosystem to support it as well. So we're hoping that as CareNext grows and as we start seeing designs for the hospital, we can not only participate in helping the hospital understand here's the opportunities for equipment and services that we can help provide, but also our companies and our entrepreneurs going in and working with CareNext to help solve some of the problems that the hospital is seeing.
Okay, so Elliot, with like the companies that you have both at Mix and also other ones you've seen in the ecosystem, where's the intersection of those companies and the quantum and the rich like quantum and nano roots that we also have in our deep tech space in this ecosystem? Is there intersection even?
There is intersection. I would say all of our companies are already using AI and they've integrated AI into their products in some form or another. Entrepreneurs are now starting to look at quantum, nano. We have a lot more startups in that space right now that are coming up through the university, for instance, and different programs. But we do have founders who came from nano backgrounds. And they're starting to bring this whole other perspective into healthcare and looking at and doing things that absolutely blow my mind. So I can't tell you right now what those companies are going to look like in 5 years because the concepts probably haven't even been invented yet. I don't or even thought of yet. But there's a lot happening in quantum, and I also think that's a huge opportunity for this region in particular. Smarter people than I will be able to take quantum and do something with it. But there's a huge opportunity there.
I learned that an MRI machine is a quantum sensing.
I did, yeah.
Which you don't think about, but there's quantum in real life.
Well, like your laser stuff is based on quantum, right? Like your laser surgeries and things like that.
Yep. Oh, so LASIK is quantum. Quantum LASIK.
There you go.
I was at, this is just an aside, yesterday the executive director for the Procurement Institute introduced himself, and I heard him explain quantum in the best way I've ever heard, which was, so basically we do math without numbers. And I just sat there and it kind of hit me. I'm like, oh, that's a hard one to get your head around, but that's a great way to describe it. We do math without numbers.
Quantum. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The quantum solutions that we'll see in 5 years, like just haven't even been conceptualized at this point.
That's right.
It's going to happen really fast and it's going to happen all of a sudden. And that's why I do think like this region has such a great opportunity to lead the nation in quantum and, really have people's heads turned towards Waterloo Region for quantum.
Tell the story in the right way.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to see all the many ways that those technologies can be applied, MedTech and many other sectors as well, right?
Yeah. I think the important thing though is, we've always talked about, two things, tech for good and not using technology for technology's sake. At the end of the day, we need to be solving the problems that we see in the health system. Mm-hmm. So if quantum can do that, fantastic. But, at the very basic level, people are still waiting 9 hours in the emergency room. So how can we solve that? Like, we have to solve all of those problems. And however we get there is great. If quantum can help with that, fantastic.
Along the same lines, you talked about quantum is great, but we still need to get, people treatment faster. Whether it's access to family physicians, whether that's in an ER. With AI, there's been a number of companies that have kind of popped up in the area, going through medical records and cancer screenings and things like that, going through MRIs and trying to identify, diagnose cancer sooner.
Yep.
Things about improving booking times in surgical theaters. What are kind of some of the things that you're seeing now as, I don't say AI is maturing, but as people are kind of getting over the bubble of, we can do anything, to like, here's what we're actually going to do that makes sense?
That's a really good question and a good point, because what I see our successful companies doing right now is using AI to do the really deep predictive analytics and look at the data that we have to help inform the decisions that the clinicians need to make. So, Fluid AI, for instance, they have developed a great product. Using AI, they can help predict if that person is going to get a fever, if that person is going to get an infection. And it just really helps inform the clinician and the surgeon to help them make decisions. But, also we have companies that send clinical staff out into the field, and AI is helping them get to the patient's house in the most efficient manner. And it's helping them set up all their patient visits in a way that makes sense, so they're optimizing their day. So maybe using AI can help them see 6 patients in the day instead of 4 patients in the day. So you're still using the same people and the same resources, but AI is allowing them to do more, certainly, and use the data that they have to solve more problems.
Yeah, that example came up around scheduling at that, again, at Founders and Physicians, was around the pajama time work, right?
Yeah.
So when physicians are done for their day and they have to go and do all their notes, that is a time-consuming process they're not getting paid for.
Yeah.
They're missing time for their family, and AI is able to transcribe and actually do that, not do the busy work, but do the work. But the physician is still the human in the middle.
Yeah.
Making sure everything is documented right.
Yeah, exactly. And I just heard another example yesterday of using AI to support medical receptionists. And the number I heard was that we were going to be short 3,000 medical receptionists at some point next year. And we can use AI to help answer phones in different languages and collect information so that the receptionist, when they get to the person, they have a whole bunch of information at their fingertips already. And or AI can actually speak to the person in a specific language. And that's technology that's being developed locally right here and can be deployed out.
As we've kind of talked about quantum and nano AI solutions in healthcare, the thing that does come up often, though, is it's still patient-centered care. So there's a person on the table, there's a person in the chair, there's a person in the waiting room. How have you found founders at Mix dealing with that and remembering to keep patients at the center of the process?
So I don't think any founder is going to be successful if they ignore the patient experience. And the patient experience is part of that data collection and part of that design that they need to use in order to make a product that's actually going to work. Because, really at the end of the day, you want to be able to support clinicians, you want to be able to support the health system. But if you're not thinking about the patient experience and you're not wrapping that product around how that patient is going to interact with the product, if they do, then it's really not going to work. It's not going to be successful. So you have to think about the senior who's at home, who's waiting for Meals on Wheels, who, and you have got a driver out there, and if they can optimize their route and make sure that they get to that senior citizen who's waiting for their food on time and efficiently, then that's really good. But if we don't think about the patient experience, then the solution isn't going to work.
So for companies in town, across Ontario, across Canada, who are looking at Mix now after this conversation, and they're interested, how do they get involved? What's the kind of like an application process if you want to be in residence or an affiliate member? Like, how does that kind of work?
Yeah, so we've got application forms online on www.medicalinnovationexchange.ca. And there's 2 application forms. So one is residency, and that simply means you would like to live at Mix and physically have your team centered there. We do have assembly, manufacturing, and lab spaces as well. So a number of our companies have onshored manufacturing operations in our facility. So companies would go through that application process. They meet with myself. They meet with other founders. And the same process goes for affiliates. And affiliates just mean you don't physically live in our facility. Some companies are too big already. Some companies are outside of our region. But again, they meet with myself. They meet with some founders, and we make a decision on whether or not to invite them into our network. The biggest thing that we look for, though, is, besides are they a growth stage domestic MedTech company, the biggest thing that we look for is, do they believe in and support the philosophy of building the innovation ecosystem here in Ontario? And do they agree to receive mentorship that we're going to give them? And critically, do they also receive then to give it back? So in many ways, we operate like a co-op. So whatever you get out of Mix, we hope that you give it back to other companies as more companies come in. And that's the Mix model. So it's a very much a pay it forward model that has been working over the last couple of years. Yeah.
So Elliot, you really well succinctly summarized sort of how Mix came to be where it is today. And I wondered if you could share what your goals are for it and how you see MedTech innovation in this ecosystem moving into the future.
So we've only scratched the surface on what this ecosystem can do with health innovation and MedTech. When we started this I don't know what you want to call it, this experiment with Mix 5 years ago, there were roughly 7 or 10 startups in the ecosystem that were purely MedTech companies. The program that's been built and the network that's been built, we now have about 120 in the broader region that look after health innovation or MedTech. And that's just our region. We're starting to see companies from all across Ontario and across the country reaching out to us and asking us, hey, can you help us figure out this problem? Or can you help us build this network here? The power of the Mix model is that we can duplicate it right across the country and for very little amount of money. And we can, create a Mix outpost in British Columbia, for instance. There's about 100 MedTech companies over in BC that loosely get together and have formed this network. And we're starting to talk to them and explain, so this is the Mix model. You could just be Mix BC. And it's a very straightforward model. Ultimately, what I really want to see happen is that Mix helps support this ecosystem to make Ontario a globally recognized center for health innovation. So when we think of where do you go in the world that does health innovation really well, you think of places like the Boston Biomedical Corridor, you think of Houston with the Texas Medical Center, you think of Tel Aviv and Dubai, a little bit Silicon Valley, Singapore. I want people to think of Ontario and specifically this region. And we want to draw innovators and entrepreneurs and clinicians into this region to help build and sustain this innovation ecosystem.
That's awesome. So again, medicalinnovationexchange.ca. We'll have the link in the show notes.
Cool.
We'll have some contact info for you as well and the link to applications. Thanks for joining us. This is really cool to learn about.
This is so much fun. I really appreciate being invited. Thank you.
And if you have any questions about Communitech and how it can help your startup start, grow, and succeed, you can also visit communitech.ca or follow along on social media at Communitech on all the major platforms. I'm Alex Kinsella. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure being here today.